The next viewer wrote in a question about their experience with psychologists and therapy, and they want to know what should they do next. Dear Rabbi Schonbuch, I had a very difficult childhood. When I was about 12 years old, my father lost his job and my family suffered financial woes for many years. Soon after that, my mother got sick and I felt that I was burdened with taking care of the other children. I lived a relatively good life, but I do experience some sadness when I think back to what had happened in an earlier part of my life. I have tried therapy for years, psychoanalysis, CBT, even EMDR, but I'm not feeling relief from my sadness. What should I do next? Dear viewer, you're asking a tremendous question, and I'm so sorry that you went through these difficulties when you were a child. There's no question. If you as a child watched your father lose his job, and then your mother have a physical illness, you obviously suffered from a lot of trauma as a child. And in truth, many people that come to me for advice and for help who suffer with depression or anxiety or just a lot of emotional distress often experienced very difficult childhoods. The question is, how do you overcome these difficulties now and in the present? I'm so glad that your life is basically good, but it's distressing to hear that despite the fact that you've been to therapy for years, you're still feeling a lot of sadness. This is a question that many people come to me with. As a therapist, I see clients that have been to 1, 2, or 3 therapists before me at times. They've tried almost everything. Unfortunately, they spent a lot of time focusing on their past and looking for quick results. However, I want to tell you as follows. There's a very famous psychologist who's been practicing psychology for over 40 years. And she initially believed that she could help people as well many years ago while treating their depression by talking about their past. And hopefully their problems would go away in the present. But she found after a lot of research and a lot of time spent with clients, it just didn't work. Although she would sell herself as a therapist that would solve all their problems fairly quickly, the truth is in life that if a person suffered trauma as a child, they may suffer with it for many, many years. Therefore, therapy, as we know today, doesn't always help people that suffer from long-term emotional distress. And then she writes, it's important that a person also practices daily meditation and spirituality and finds goals they can focus on in the future as well. It seems to me from your question that that would be important for you too. Many people look towards therapy as answering all of their problems. They think if they can solve their past, they can live a better present and a better future. It's not necessarily true. That may be one half of a person, their past. They also have to pivot and focus on their future. Let me tell you a story. I once met with a woman who lost one of her parents in a tragic car accident several years ago. And she suffered for a few years with depression and post-traumatic stress and didn't know how to get over it. She tried medication, psychotherapy, and nothing would work. I spent a few months helping her with cognitive behavior therapy and EMDR for post-traumatic stress disorder. She did make some improvement, but she still suffered greatly. And I decided with her that instead of just focusing on her past, let's also focus on her future. Let's try to find out are the things that she could accomplish beyond herself. It turned out that her mother was a volunteer in an organization that helped young children overcome cancer. I suggested that instead of just doing therapy, perhaps she should also take up her mother's cause and do something for that same organization. She went on a walk for this organization to raise money, and eventually she decided to support one of their programs and raise a lot of money and put her mother's name on that program. Over a 6-month period, she started working on developing this organization and raising money and helping, and she did report that she felt much better than she felt in the past. And I believe the reason was she was focusing less on the past and more on her future. She was feeling less paralyzed and now more mobilized. She was actually doing something more meaningful and creative in her life, which was giving her a greater sense of meaning. Therefore, I believe in many instances, instead of just focusing on the past, a person also needs to focus on their future. It may be different between different people. Some people need to do chesed. Some people need to give to others. Other people need to become more creative, meaning play music, write poetry, start painting, learning how to express themselves and experiencing different things in life. While other people need to increase their amount of exercise. And exercise with a goal. If you could bike 2 miles, try to bike 5. If you could run 1 mile, try to run 2 or 3 miles. Always try to grow in life and try to achieve something much greater than yourself, whether it's chesed, whether it's in creativity, maybe it's in art, maybe it's in music or exercise, or it could be in Torah learning. Perhaps somebody that's trying to deal with the sadness of losing somebody in their life could instead dedicate time to learn something in the Torah, to finish a chapter of the Torah, or a book of the Torah, or a book on Jewish philosophy. Perhaps that will be a meaningful act that will project a person beyond their past and into their future. And therefore, I'm not going to say that therapy isn't helpful, but I like to suggest that you mix your therapy with also trying to acquire and achieve certain things in your future as well. Welcome to this new series on Hidabrut called Marriage Matters. My name is Rabbi Daniel Schonbuch, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist based in New York and around the world via Skype. On this important series, I will be answering your questions you have about marriage, relationships, dating, parenting, and about any issue dealing with family and relationships. But more than what I have to say, I want to hear what you have to say. So please email to this address and send in your questions, and I'll try to answer as many questions on this new show.